Welcome to the Real Estate Talk podcast with myself, Oliver Ingalls, and my esteemed co-host, as always, Benji Weinberger. If you take anything from this podcast, if you learn anything, if you take any nuggets of gold, we would love for you to like, subscribe, and please share. You watching this and sharing it with friends and family helps this podcast grow and then gets us the best opportunity to get the best guests for you to watch.
This will probably get noted because I don't talk about this very often. In the interview, they said no. I sent them a letter and email back going, I think you're wrong here.
Wow.
And that's the phone call that we make. Would that have been useful? You can tell what happened next.
I was going to say, yeah.
Every summer and Christmas, the house would turn into a shop. I feel like I should say a disclaimer here because this doesn't happen very often. I do more work with agents in Wales than I do with agents in London. If you'd bought your pounds now rather than then, it would have cost you another $180,000.
Wow.
So today we have Steve Eakins, the first person on our podcast outside of being an agent or a buying agent. He is in the currency space. He learned from his mother selling secondhand toys, his father selling sweets, and he went solo traveling around the world for 9 months.
Steve has been in the FX currency world now for 17 years. And recently he saved a client £180,000 just by executing the transaction at the right second. Let's go. Steve, thank you ever so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. So you should feel quite desired because you're our first guest outside of a real estate broker and agent that we've had on the podcast.
I feel honoured. Thank you. I must be doing something right then.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, actually, no pressure. Got it right.
So, mate, we want to start where we start with all of our guests, okay? We want to kind of take it back to Steve's upbringing, where you started, what schools did you go to, what were you interested in, what was your education like? And then let's get into what you're doing now.
All right. Okay. Well, big thing is, and I've seen some trends on prior ones, educationally, I wasn't the sharpest.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, I was dyslexic. Or am dyslexic, whether or not it's in or out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was in extracurriculum lessons from a very young age to identify it with the teachers at the time and pull that through education. So I went through normal schooling, and probably a catchment bit was GCSEs were great, apart from English, which I retook. And then when I went into A-levels, my teacher said, yes, you're really good at maths, physics, computing. So, okay. I'm doing better than I thought I was. Brilliant. Okay. Put me in for all of those. The issue I had was the teachers for maths and physics moved on while I was in A-levels. So the only constant teacher I had was through computing. Yeah. So from an A-levels perspective, I got one, basically, which was computing. And I'm from a generation still where it's right straight onto higher education normally is the framing from it. So off I went to university, but because I only had one A-level, it really contracted my options. Yeah. Both from what course I was going to and what university I went to. Yeah. So I ended up changing pretty last minute. I was probably going to go to other universities. I ended up going down to Plymouth. Yep. Plymouth University. In fact, I didn't even do a degree. I was on a HND.
Okay, HND. What was that? What does it stand for?
I couldn't tell you now. But in essence, it was a 2-year course rather than a 3-year course. Okay. And it meant for me, unlike everyone else on the course, the first year really counted. Yeah. So everyone else was taking the full cultural experience of university, whereas I was not. Yeah. So I was straight in and working hard through it, which was computers, which was the one degree I had, obviously. Yeah. Interesting crowd. And I'm assuming this relates to the entrepreneurial piece that I think is also a theme that I'm seeing in some of these. Yeah. I had the same gig. Yeah. So from an upbringing perspective, my parents were both entrepreneurs. I'm one of 3. My dad used to sell confectionery sweets. Yep. And my mum, as well as bringing me and my 2 siblings up, used to sell secondhand toys.
Okay. Nice.
So from a childhood perspective, sweets always in, toys always in. I had a great time. But it brought the entrepreneurial piece in because everyone was grafting and looking at all the pennies and making it work. So yes, I did the same thing I know others have mentioned, sweet sales and then doing that. I literally had garage is full of the stuff.
Yeah.
So I did that.
And did you help out with that, with the sales side of it? Or?
Yeah. Well, we used to, my mum in particular, when she was running and doing second-hand toy sales that funded our holidays, basically, it meant that once every quarter, perhaps, every summer and Christmas, the house would turn into a shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, stick with me on this. Obviously, there wasn't any e-commerce then.
Yeah.
So it was, the house was cleaned, like the old painting decks, that wallpapering was done, was put out, and all the toys were in, and then basically the village came to the house and went through and picked out the toys.
What they wanted. Yeah.
But it meant that I was seen as brought up with a hard grafting environment and working from that perspective, which is where that probably came from. Because before coming, you look back and you think, oh, minute, this is really happened.
Yeah.
So that was the journey.
Because I guess it's quite inspiring, as you've mentioned previously, how you're bringing Alfie up. I guess as a kid, seeing, your mum doing a job and the result coming of it being a holiday. Yeah. So I guess as a young age, you've seen, what the results come from hard work.
Correct. Yeah. And equally, being in finance, I probably am particularly astute to the financial education piece to the kids. So if you ask either of my girls, what does money mean? They have been engraved that it is a time token.
Yeah.
A token of time.
Love that.
The idea being that later, you've got X because you gave that much time in. So either you put more time in or you get more money out for your time.
Yeah.
Is the framing idea from it. Which
amazing.
Is when you read all these books, was something that really resonated with me. So I've taken that into the parenting. Saying that, my other half does a majority of the best parenting. I luckily stand in her shadow. So big shout out to her, because she brings up great kids that I get to enjoy as well.
Love that.
But yeah, that was the education piece. University was great and good fun.
Yeah.
Post that, I think it was the second or third day after graduation, I got on a plane and went backpacking.
Okay, nice.
Straight out, straight going.
Where'd you go?
Well, I went a bit different. Back in that point, everyone used to go east over to Australia and New Zealand. I went west.
Okay.
I went with the view that I could name 3 cities in Australia, probably.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, massive film geek, used to watch loads of films, obviously good education, sitting at uni, reading and watching films. So I went and spent 9 months going from Canada down to Argentina.
Oh, wicked.
Wow.
Nice.
Until I ran out of money, basically.
Yeah.
And then came home. But
those time tokens run out.
I didn't earn any out there, but it was 1 meal a day thing. But it was great, a great adventure.
Did you go on your own?
Yeah. I went on my own.
Nice.
Caught up with someone from uni to do bits of it for a few months, but I was in North America by myself for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then met up with him and did Central America and Southern America with him. So we kind of buddied up through the other months.
Do you know what I'm finding as well is that there's a bit of a trend again from the guests that we've interviewed over the past, where at some point they've kind of been pushed out of their social comfort zone, where they've been thrown into an environment they don't know anybody, or like you've gone out to a country where you don't know anybody, you don't know the language, and you've had to survive. Yeah. And I think that's again built a lot of resilience throughout the guests. And actually, when they look back at their lives, they go, that 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever it may be, taught them so much. And actually, to have that, those attributes of being able to speak to lots of different people across the globe and how to react to them and how to speak to them and how to engage and how to build relationships is probably now
was one of
pays dividend.
The foundation of what I do and where I fit and the bits that I enjoy and take pleasure out of my career choice.
Yeah.
Certainly seeing people and getting over the social anxiety of how they might feel or think about you, to recognize, like, I love going to big sporting events and big things, and you sit in a stadium with 60,000 people and you go, 60,000 problems, 60,000 worries. Yeah. And it I find it quite grounding to then step away and go, my problems are small problems, and zooming out a bit and focusing on the long-term stuff rather than short-term stuff.
And also, I mean, look, this might be stereotypical of it maybe. When you think of that group of kids from school, friends that you used to know who liked computers and gaming, it was very much an introvert type of personality. I think that's okay for me to say, and not much,
human interaction.
Yeah, 100%. Were you like that growing up? Was that like a really big step for you? Were you the opposite?
Totally. I was the opposite, because I would been brought up with loads of people coming around the house and doing loads of things. And equally, going back to the dyslexic piece, going in and studying computing was basically learning another language.
Yeah.
I always joke that I didn't really know English very well, never mind learning another.
Yeah.
So I ended up finding myself doing is I knew loads of different like communities in the courses that I was in.
Mhm.
And when we were doing doing coding for coursework bits and pieces, I'd in essence trade a bit of coursework with someone and then go to another group and trade that up. So that ended up that I got the full picture, which probably came down to the trading piece and the perception of value and all those kind of bits that we look at now is what we do.
I love that.
But that was the education piece. So then off to work I went.
Yeah. So like when you went into to do the computing course, etc. You done it. What was that at the time? What was the vision? What was that? Oh, that's the perfect career. That's what I want to do in the future.
No.
Where was it kind of wanting to lead to?
No, it didn't go in there. That wasn't again the three. You still don't know what you want to do until you find your finding, right?
Yeah.
Your calling. I certainly didn't know at that point. Hence, probably why 3 days after graduation I was off.
Yeah.
But yeah, came back from that, and my dad helped me out with my first proper job, which this will probably get noted because I don't talk about this very often. My first job was selling Chupa Chup lollipops.
Chupa Chup lollipops.
And Smint and Mentos.
Yeah.
And all those. I was a rep for them.
Yeah.
Went in at 21 to do that. My dad got me because normally you're supposed to be 25.
Yeah.
And that meant I had a van. I had cash flow. I was going to cash and carry, filling it up.
Yeah.
And then in essence, walking into shops around central London, because at that point, Tesco and Sainsbury's didn't own them all.
Yeah.
And talking to them as a stranger walking in, I'm from here.
Wow.
Can I sort these samples? Can I swap this over? And trying to sell them things so they take money out of their till. And these are shop owners, which their till is their house income as well, right?
Yeah.
So that was probably the first introduction to sales and perception of value. And that's why I don't normally shy away from public speaking or standing in front of people, because that was my first piece in.
What percentage of yes and no did you? I assume there's a lot of rejection.
You don't measure your KPIs at that point, but I was pretty good at it, and that was probably what stemmed the next jump that I made. Because within a year, I was their top salesperson, but I was 21, 22, and they were all 25, 26 plus. So I kind of knew this wasn't the long term thing for me. So I approached a few recruiters and had meetings with them, which ended up being like mini apprentices.
Yeah.
Put 20 people in a room and work them out as to who the goodies are. So from the recruitment firm, they could then sell that product, sell that individual to the firms that they've got, which I, again, being 22 with the experience I had and the exposure I'd had to the world, I did pretty well at over others. I was probably ahead of experience as a 22-year-old in comparison to most.
Yeah.
So then I end up going into selling computers.
Interesting.
Because there's the link in, right?
Yeah,
you asked, right? So I was selling computers at a company, and I was selling it into public sector.
Yep.
So I'd walk into the British Library, to Buckingham Palace, and help them with computer bits and pieces. Did that for a good few years.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Sorry, I thought I'm doing all the time.
What was the? You said that year one selling Chupa Chup lollies, two, hopefully, probably when you were selling computers, two, you went, you were number one. What attributes do you think that you put that down to? What was the things that you learned during that year that got you to being number one?
Good question. Back in those Chupa Chup days, they owned Smint and Mentos and all those other brands, but everyone remembers Chupa Chups more.
Yeah.
It was more around the perception of value, seeing it from the other person's side, what value you could give them, how you stood out from that and what you could do. And I think the big thing came from recognizing that those shops owned other shops. So you had KPIs of visiting 10 shops a day, which even back in that day with traffic and parking was tricky in central London.
Yeah.
I had an A to Z because this was the day before mobiles and maps, right? And I had a colour highlighting, identifying all the shops and going around. And I'd colour them differently if they owned more than one shop. So then I'd go in and negotiate for more. So I could then give them a bit of a discount or position it differently if they bought in bulk. And that was probably where the accelerator came for me to be more successful, to identify and build that trust and work out what worked for them. So I could be more productive, sell more as a result.
And do you know what? I think that's such a key tip. There is so many salespeople out there who go into a meeting or to a pitch, whatever they're doing, and they just always talk about themselves or the company or the product. It's, we're number one. This is the best product in the world, la, la, la. And they never sit back and actually, like what you said, assess what the client wants really ask the right questions to find out what are their motivations, what do they need, and then they tailor. The good salespeople are able to tailor that pitch around what they've listened to, what they've heard. So, it's a great piece of advice.
Well, it's when you come down to agents nowadays, the more successful agents that I deal with aren't brokers, they're advisors. They're people that are not walking encyclopedias, but they've got a really powerful black book and they mount a team around the client, understanding their requirements to solve the problems and make the deals happen.
Yeah, 100%.
And do you think, again, because we touched on before that we have a lot of younger people that watch the podcast and perhaps are thinking in a similar position, graduating from uni, what do I do next? Do you think, in terms of when you were number one in those roles, do you think it played a part that you went traveling solo, that you essentially had no alternative, you were by yourself, you had to understand yourself, and walking into a shop by yourself to try and sell them something, being for 3 or 4 months by yourself played a role in being comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think so. And equally, I had a quicker realization that people come and go, and it's making sure that you know what you want and why you want it. So looking back, that decision around going to America rather than going to Australia and others like everyone else was another, I don't need to do what everyone else is doing. I want to do me. Yeah, of course. I think that's probably the case.
Nice.
Love that. Okay, so computers did that, worked out well there. They grew by acquisition. Yeah. So they were buying loads of people. So I recognized they were very managerial heavy. Yeah. And as a result, I knew that my time was coming. Yeah. So my time came. Yeah. Got some money as a result of that. Went off and spent some time learning to ride a motorbike. So got a motorbike and had some time out and did that. And I had a bit, not money nowadays, but at that time you had money to kind of go, I don't need to make a knee-jerk reaction. I've got a bit of a safety net, even at whatever I was then, 24, 25. Yeah. So at that point, there was a self-reflection period of, what am I going to do next? What do I enjoy? What do I want to do? What am I excited by? Which is when I came to the job that I do now. Yeah. So I approached them and went for the interview. And as you now know, I had a bit of a different background than others. So to be honest, in the interview, they said no. They said, you come from a too different background, this might not work. Yeah. And that was the point when I, again, probably took a different path than others would. I sent them a letter and email back going, I think you're wrong here. I'll come and work for free for a month. I'll show you what I can do. Love that.
And then went in, and now I'm 17 odd years there now.
Wow. I mean, I love that. And I think we've spoken about, I kind of think back to maybe one of the other podcasts where we did, where you have to do something different to everybody else now to get someone's attention or to meet somebody for the first time, and it's that persistence and consistency that we talk about on every single podcast, it seems. But you were so persistent and weren't just like, no, that's fine. I've been said no to, I've got to try and find something else, It was that bite and fight back, which ultimately sparked that person on the other end of the email going, I like this, 100%. And that got you the job, which is you've been there, it's like 17 years or whatever it is now, it's like
16, 17 odd years doing it.
Wow. That's amazing, you know. So that first month, you went in literally. So what was it like day one though? Because day one, you kind of you're on the back foot from the off, knowing in the back of your mind, look, these guys have already said kind of no to me. They're probably doubting me.
Yeah. Well, they did what most people do. They hire multiple people at the same time. Yeah. And the financial market was a bit different then. So they could treat people in a slightly different way than you would nowadays. Yeah. So there was a 3-month probation period and you had a target to hit. And if you didn't hit the target, you were out.
Wow.
Month 3, I was challenging and doing pretty well. And I decided to push, beg your pardon, it was month 4. So I'd got in. Month 4, I pushed really hard to become like the top trader at that month. There was an opportunity. I probably wasn't worthy for it, but I had a good bloody go. Pulled it all out and went. I missed it, so I didn't quite get it. But it meant that the following month, I was then short of pipeline opportunity. Yeah. And back then, you had a target of £20,000 to make. And if you didn't make it, the next month, you had to make it plus twice what you missed it by.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Otherwise, you were out.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're 20 grand target. Let's say you hit 15. You missed by 5. clients, then you got to double it to 10 and add it on top of the 20. So your target
30.
would be 30,000 effectively.
Yeah.
And if you didn't hit that, you're out.
Done.
This is during the probation period or throughout?
Throughout. Until the world changed in the financial world and all these HR teams have got more policies to look after people, rightly, I would add.
I was going to say, a bit more than it used to be.
And so were people coming and going every single month?
Yeah, pretty fluid.
And can you just, for the people listening, just explain what you were selling in finance? Because I don't think we actually kind of said what the actual role was. Like, what were you selling?
So I like to define myself. We are a very property savvy currency broker.
Yeah.
So a currency broker is someone that moves money around the world. And we're very property centric around that, property savvy from it. And what a currency broker in essence is tries to aspire to offer better rates and better service than that of the banks when clients are moving money around the world.
Yeah.
So I've been there a long time. And when I walked in, there was 20 of us, and now there's 190 of us, 180 odd. And we've got 10 offices throughout Europe.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in the day, at that point, it was classed as a 360 role.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean that you'd need to go and originate a referrer, so someone that would introduce your service, onboard the client to get them onboarded with a client, with a profile with us, and then trade the client, so help them with their currency management, and then put the trades through the banks, sort out the payments, get a review at the end, go around the whole cycle.
Yeah.
So it was a full kind of lifespan of a client from originating partner. So we're about 9 out of 10 of the clients that we work with in the private space are introduced to us. So we're very partner centric, I am in particular.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to that point before around adding value.
Yeah.
The perception of value outwards and looking to solve problems.
Yeah.
So I find myself often being in people's phones as Steve Currency or Steve Money. And I
think you're actually that on mine. I think it's
it
Steve
works.
Eakins Currency FX or something like that.
But yeah, and I get rang up for problems to try and solve around international clients and international flow. But initially it was all European based. So, and it still really is. In our space, our biggest playground is Europe, because that's got the higher concentration of international clients, the expats that would buy property abroad. So we're pretty big in France, really big in Spain, big in Portugal. And over there now you'll see us on billboards and hear us on the radio and the papers, and it's half a dozen buses with our brand on going around Spain. I get some agents that try and take a break from London and then send me a picture of outside of one of the offices and go, oh, you're big. And yeah, we're pretty big in Europe, yeah. But we're doing more and more in the UK following the clients, and the world is changing in that space. So it's always changed. Yeah.
So 17 years ago when you started, obviously, I mean, now you're probably phone pings 3 or 4 times a day with one of your introducers, people like us, etc., calling you saying, Steve, can you help with this? Obviously, day one, the phone's not ringing whatsoever. You know, you haven't got your black book, you haven't got your contact list, relationships with all those people. Were you given like a cold call list, or how?
You got a computer and Google and off you go.
Is that what it
was?
literally was?
That was the day when the monitors were 2 foot wide.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just go and approach cold agents and give them introduce the service.
Yeah.
And now in Europe, most people know what our industry does. In the UK, we're still really widely unknown. People don't know we exist, really.
Yeah.
And in the UK space, I kind of position it like we're property stages 5 years ago, or like you guys do brilliant presenter-led video, but 5 years ago, we're on the cusp of that really as more and more international client flow. So agents are seeing the benefit and the value. But you're right, and great question. It probably comes down, there's a theme here, isn't it? It's that perception of value of who you're talking to and what they're doing and what their goals are and what the values are that you can give to solve a problem.
Yeah.
But you would literally be cold calling an agent. Hello, you don't know me. Please trust me. Let's get over the reputational risk. Please introduce me to your client that you really want to look after. We can provide these benefits and these values. And back at that point, it was traditionally around just a better price than the bank. You know, currency was transactional.
Yeah.
And it would be my cost is X, their cost is Y. We can save them money, which from an agent's perspective meant more money to spend with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means they can increase offers to help with price sensitivity, or from a vendor's perspective, particularly at the moment in the UK with the Exodus, if they can take lower offers because their pounds are worth more dollars or euros or whatever they're moving to. But it was primarily just that initially.
Yeah.
And then it moved on to all the services around to help the client around what they're doing. And this is the theme probably again for anyone young listening. It's around stepping out the 2-3 piece chess move around, our game, currency, traditionally was transactional. But around Brexit and ash clouds and COVID and hung governments and all these changes, you'll need a visa specialist. This is a wealth event. ISAs don't exist in Europe. If you turn up and change there, you'll get a big tax bill, and Google doesn't count as research. You probably need to speak to someone. So we encompass all that around a client to help them with that. And then in recent times, with Trump and the world the way it is, and we laughed before we pressed the record button around how fluid the market is now, right? It's that risk mitigation piece. That's where the value is from clients, because the market's moving so much. Which you guys have seen the benefit of protecting those international sales and making sure that X equals Y when you get around to completion.
I think that's a massive point, isn't it? I mean, we are always advising clients on the right time to execute these transactions, be it market conditions or when to start marketing, that must be your whole game as well, kind of reading the markets, having the foresight to look at what could come in the next 6 months. Do we do that transactional deal now? Do we wait a week? And like you said, with the volatility of political uncertainty across the globe at the moment, I mean, you must wake up every single morning and you've seen drops, you've seen, it must be crazy.
It moves a lot. Yeah. So from most clients' perspective, they'd speak to the bank. The bank's still the person that they go to in a majority of cases. But what I'd say to a client is, when was the last time they rang you? And they don't. Oh, okay. And moving the market around, it can make a sizable impact on what it can mean from a client and from a sales perspective. So we'll give them what the different banks are saying so they can make a more informed view in line with their risk appetite. So I was introduced to a client earlier on this summer who just randomly gave me a call from an unknown number. I feel like I should say a disclaimer here because this doesn't happen very often. And it was this billionaire that rang me up. And I'm buying this place on Baker Street. My agent said, I have to speak to you. I've come across your industry, but never used you before. Why do I need to talk to you? It's like, well, respectively, we normally say that we're saving you money over the bank. But if I can save you 40, 50, 60 grand, you're not going to be too bothered. It's around risk mitigation. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, have you told your bank you're going to do this? It's like, yeah, I've told my bank I'm moving dollars into pounds. 8 million is what I need. And I told them 3 weeks ago. It's like, right. Well, in the last 3 weeks, it's got $380,000 more expensive. And that's the phone call that we make. Would that have been useful? You can tell what happened next.
I was going to say, yeah.
So it's just that framing the difference of the value as the world has changed. Because again, currency was transactional and now it makes deals happen. It solves problems and helps with price sensitivity and locking in exchange rates on budgets. It's, the agents that we work so closely with are the top hitters that aren't the encyclopedia, but they're forming the Marvel team around the client 100%. With all the services.
So I want to talk about the role of the agent, the estate agent. And you just touched on when you started 16, 17 years ago, you were going through calling the agents. And obviously now perhaps people are coming to you, but let's say you were to go and call an agent. Do agents understand the benefits of speaking to someone like yourself and being involved with that currency exchange? Because I think an agent connecting someone like yourself to the transaction can sometimes make or break a deal. Do agents understand the currency side of it?
They'll get burnt once and then they'll seek it. I don't do a lot of cold outreach. People normally just organically come and hear as I speak to people. They go, oh, this is different. This is useful. I got burnt by this before and now I know you. In Europe, as I say, it's a big thing and people are very educated and aware around it. In the UK, no. But to give you an idea, the partners that I work across in the UK, and this will probably shock you, and I know the question that will come after, I do more work with agents in Wales than I do with agents in London.
Wow. Why?
What?
Yeah, right. They ask the question. They follow the client more. Because normally if they're selling in Wales, they're buying in the next village over or the next office and they can follow the client and refer the client through to look after them. Whereas the traditional London agent will be a bit more transactional and there isn't as much transactions taking place. So they're very laser focused on that one client and what that one sale looks like. And as a result, don't ask the question as much. And then Friday 2 weeks ago, I got introduced to 2 clients and both of them were completing on that day. And
completing on that day.
And that narrative was from the agent, help, X doesn't equal Y anymore. Can you help?
Oh my God.
So from an agent's point of view, whether it's a buyer or a seller, when is the best time to connect you in the lifespan of a property transaction?
Like any auxiliary additional service, we're all going to say the sooner the better, because it means we can add more value, qualify more, feed that back to the agent because they'll tell us different stuff, and ultimately service that client. So the themes we can come onto, we can share some data if people are interested around what the market looks like from an international perspective. I think people might find that useful. But let me give you an example. We were introduced to lots of Americans last month, but two particular Americans last month who the agent introduced us to when they'd made the inquiry on the property. So I'm coming over in a few weeks' time. I want to see this property. The agent, they've already seen this, recognise it's international. Great, we'll schedule the appointment. Could see you're international. I'm going to introduce you to Steve as a member of the team, have a chat with him. We spoke to them, and before both clients had landed in the UK, both of them had already moved their dollars into pounds.
Really? Interesting.
Wow.
So it meant that it helped the agent because they'd qualified the client.
Yeah.
Like, before you give up your Saturday and your time away from the family, this is a really serious buyer because we've got their money.
Yeah.
One went on to buy the X property as a result with that team, and the other one moved on to another part of the country, but we'd still transacted the client and helped them as a result of that.
Yeah, love that.
So that's a prime example of the earlier. Here's another good, and I know we've talked about Americans, so I'll give you another American example. And this one I love. I've been talking about it probably all year. It's one of my favourite client stories. This was an American client that was returning to the UK to rebuy their family home down on the south coast. I was introduced in, I think it was April time, when the offer had been put in and been accepted. Agent had recognised they were international, had a chat. The market at that point, peak Trump tariff conversation. What's the risk?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What happens if it goes up? What happens if it goes down? What do the numbers look like? This client's budget didn't have much room.
Yeah.
So we helped them buy their funds then on what's called a forward contract.
Yeah.
It's a buy now, pay later option.
Yeah.
So it allows them to get rid of the risk early.
Nice.
The completion came round in June time, and we did the maths on the week of the completion and said to them, if you'd bought your pounds now rather than then, it would have cost you another $180,000.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's a massive quantum, isn't it?
Client wouldn't have been able to do it. Budget wasn't there. They wouldn't wanted to raise any more debt to fund the gap.
Yeah.
Chain would have fallen through.
Could have failed to complete.
Agent would have got nothing.
Yeah.
And we all know we're all working hard with clients at the moment. So if you look at that time cost to serve, that's a lot of wasted time through that. That's a prime example of the value of early introduction.
Yeah, massively. And we're talking some big quantum figures here, okay, of what you can save people. And I'm sure that a lot of them is like, oh, Steve, we've just had this offer accepted. Whatnot, I'm just going to introduce you to them now. But let's take a step back before it's been accepted, okay? I know this value incredibly well from you. We just spoke beforehand. I'm negotiating something at the moment. The buyer's at 8.3. We want 8.5 million pounds, okay? Tell the people listening why, if they haven't already done, okay, they should get in contact with you at this point during a negotiation.
I'll give you another example. And I think I might have mentioned it before we press record. So this might be relevant here, right? So there was one earlier on this year as well, a £4 million property. And the buyer and seller had got to their final negotiation, final marker in the sand. I'm not budging. Emotionally, this is the line, 0.5%. That was the gap. Agent, probably lots of people can relate to this, pulling your hair and kind of going, what's going on? The agent qualified the buyer was bringing money over from Europe. And at which point we had a quick phone call with them. Their bank was at X, we were at Y. The client was able to increase their offer by 1.5%. Note that it wasn't 0.5%, 1.5%, without spending any more money, but getting more for the money.
Yeah.
And that made the deal.
And that saved it. But otherwise that agent would have walked away and they wouldn't have had a deal and everyone's lost.
Yeah.
Like, it's so vital now.
And so if you put yourself in the shoes of the customer, and I'm trying to use this as if you're a buyer in the market looking to buy a piece of real estate, and I did a LinkedIn post on this yesterday, there's 15 agents on each high street. You've got all the brokers, the independents. So if you're a buyer in the market, you have no clue where to start, where to go. Assuming you're not speaking with the bank and you are smart and you know that the bank might not give you the best rate. If you're someone that is looking to buy or sell, and you're not in touch with an agent that mentions the currency play to introduce them to you, where do they start? If you're a customer looking to exchange your...
They'll normally start the good old Google or ChatGPT and come across the services and have the conversations directly. But from an agent's perspective, it's standing out from the crowd. It's differentiating as a result of that value. That was a buyer story, but equally there's loads of vendor stories which are really useful. Again, with the amount of people leaving over coming into the UK at the moment. And we've had loads, and this one I should probably put on T-shirts, when agents have got a cash buyer, no chain, it's below the asking price, but they know the vendor's moving abroad.
Yeah.
Give me a quick call on the way to the client to tell them the offer.
Yeah.
And I've done the maths and kind of gone, yeah, go and tell them this is great. This is a cash buyer with no chain. It represents fair local pricing, but this below market price offer actually gets you more euros now than if I'd achieved your full asking price when we brought it to the market 6 months before.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
And that'll often end up with 2 pages of emojis from the agent. Offer accepted, which is really useful. But the exchange rate movement is sizable. So if you're an agent out there and you've got a property that you're listing and you know that they're moving to the Caribbean, the US or Dubai, Dubai's the hot topic, which we'll come on to if you're interested. If you've had that property listed since the beginning of the year, they could take a 10% price reduction right now and still get the same amount of dirhams over there. That's how much the market's moved. 10%.
Is that the biggest kind of quantum movement that you would have seen?
It's got to be up there, right? It's
got to be, hasn't it? 10%'s huge.
Again, doing it the decade and a bit I've been doing it, I remember the ash cloud closing down Europe. It's like, this is never going to happen again. This is massive. The hung Parliament, massive event. This will never happen again. But now the frequencies of these events are just constant. Just constant. And when I started to put it to scale, if the currency market moved by 0.5%, it'll be on the front of the FT the next day.
Yeah.
Big news.
100%.
Whereas now, if it moves that much 3 days a week, it's a quiet week.
I was going to say, it really is.
So the movement is sizable. And that, from an agent's perspective, gives an opportunity, gives a value exchange. From a client's perspective, this is risk. Historically, again, that currency was transactional only.
Yeah.
Now it is a lot higher on the to-do list of a client to manage that.
So what advice can you give to agents who are watching, and I guess to us as well, to make sure that we are always advising our clients kind of ahead of the curve and they're not behind? What can we do?
Ask the question.
To you?
No, ask the question of the client. Yeah. Where are the funds going? What are you doing? Yeah. Where are you going? Follow the client and ask the question. You'll find the opportunity more frequently than you think.
Yeah.
And then when you have, you need to speak to Steve. I'll put you in contact. From an agent's perspective, the introduction itself is really simple. It's similar to a mortgage introduction. It's just another service.
Yeah.
But you've got to ask the question of the client. If you're not, you are missing a gap.
Yeah.
Last year we saw, I think it was 32,000 Brits bought abroad.
Yeah.
So that's 100 completions a day.
Yeah.
100 completions a day when the money's moving abroad. This year it's accelerating. We've seen the stats. And we've both seen the reports, 16,500 millionaires.
Yeah.
That's 300 a week.
Yeah.
And they aren't bank account millionaires, they're property millionaires.
100%.
So if you focus your service to acquire those clients, they're moving. And if they're moving to Dubai, which is a hot topic which I can talk to, you'll say something very memorable that no other agent on the high street has mentioned, and the client will go, they know what they're doing, brilliant. And you stand out from the crowd, and that can significantly help you win that listing and ultimately help you sell that property.
Do you know one thing which I want to compliment you on, which kind of also is a sub-answer to what you just asked, Benji? Your community WhatsApp groups have actually inspired me since I've been on yours, etc., to actually start my own with my own kind of inner circle. But now with technology, social platform, digital platforms, WhatsApp community groups, you can talk to a vast audience within a minute, and you post regularly on these community groups, just updates of what's happening, the quantums of it, so it's easily readable, easy digestible. And I've used that information when talking to clients or pitching or just having communications with other people in the marketplace. And you hit the nail on the head. You already stand 2 or 3 steps above any other agent because they're not thinking about that. They're very much, how do I sell or buy this property? What's the price per square foot? That's it, or this is what's happening in the market. They're not discussing, their FX, currency situation. They're not looking at their tax situation. They're not looking at multiple different, benefits to that. So I, compliment you on that. It's brilliant.
Well, anyone who's great in their respective line knows a little about a lot. And it's having that in a bite-sized way that you can communicate. How many times do you get stopped on the street around interest rate change? How many times do you get asked that on the sofa?
Yeah.
But we all respectively know that's priced in well in ahead.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the reason why, because every other agent goes, yep, it might change. It probably will change. Good luck. Let's hope it changes.
Yeah.
Realistically, with those groups and that intel, this is the probability. This is what it means. This is what it might impact property markets and mortgage lending and exchange rate movement.
Yeah.
And a really quick way of adding a bit of a difference.
Yeah. And also that being able to, like you said earlier, purchase ahead or lock yourself into certain rates ahead. I don't think a lot of people kind of knew that. I didn't know that before I started speaking to you a couple of years or whenever it was ago now. So I always just kind of thought it was, that's the rate. It's like a stock market. If you look at that stock market, you think, okay, I'm buying and selling now. That's the price. But actually, like you said, you can review it and you can say, okay, let's lock myself in for that period of time. Can you also do it the other way around, where if it is a better rate, then actually down the line, can you change?
No, once it's done, it's done.
Once it's done,
it's done. Prove it for a better price.
Yeah,
I'd be on a beach.
That's your risk. Yeah,
because obviously, as Ollie said, trying to cover it the other way, essentially, when you're locking in prices, it's essentially gambling, right? That you're going to be in a better position 6 months down the line. It must go wrong.
It's the same way, respectively, that you advise clients on when the right time is to buy. What's going to happen with the property market?
Yeah.
We can't advise, we don't advise, but we'll educate and inform around, outside of what the media sells papers on.
Yeah.
Well, papers is an old term now, but people will catch up, you know what I mean? It's around giving what could happen, what might happen.
Yeah.
If you do it now and the rates get better, you kick yourself. But you budgeted for this.
Yeah.
If you roll the dice on it and it gets worse, will it hurt more?
Yeah.
But hypothetically speaking, with us, it's very difficult to put an exact value on the opinion that we give them that could negatively result in their back pocket. Whereas, and you're not financial advisors, but when you give them your professional view, and let's say they lock in X price, and when that day comes, they could possibly see that decision, it's only your advice that you give them, has cost them £100,000. They can clearly see that. You must have to have some difficult conversation, because I've had that recently where we referred to a currency exchange. It was a very, very small price, and the guy lost, I think it was 15, 20k or whatever it was, and we had to have a difficult conversation. How do you manage that side of it?
Well, first off, we won't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
It's advice and it's both sides of the angle.
Yeah.
So we won't advise it could do this, it might do this bank's saying this bank's saying that. So it's factual.
Yeah.
And then they can make that informed decision on it. And what we'll often do is run the numbers. At the moment it's X, which means it costs you this. However, it goes up, it might make the amount of people that we speak to still who kind of, I think it's going to get better because someone in the pub said it would. Oh, brilliant. They must work here then, do they? No? Well, brilliant. Okay. And then when you bring it back to life of how long have you worked for this? Back to the prior point of time tokens, right?
Yeah.
Good relatable bit there, but yeah. How long has it taken you to earn it? Would you gamble that?
Yeah.
I bet you don't have a tracker mortgage.
Yeah.
Why are you going to take that approach on this?
Yeah.
Ask yourself, why would you do it and why wouldn't you do it? And make sure you've got answers for both. Even when we're having that conversation, we'll say to them, have the conversation, think about it.
Yeah.
And even if you decide we'll wait and go and it's the wrong call, at least you can look back and go, well, I thought about it consciously and I made that decision for these reasons.
Yeah.
Rather than going back, I had that feeling it might happen, but I didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
So we often see buyers when they're looking to buy, they'll want to time the market perfectly in terms of the property market. But do you actually think that timing their purchase, tying it in with the currency market is actually more important, perhaps?
If they're international. Like those two prime examples, those two Americans that bought, they bought the currency before they bought the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Equally puts them in a stronger situation to negotiate on price because they're a cash buyer from it. But yeah, the risk there is if they're making inquiries or looking at property, they're doing it on the basis that it costs them that now.
Of course. Yeah.
If you roll the dice and as an agent, if you're not talking about it, you could find that dream property and it doesn't add up. But equally, a wonderful thing that the top agents will do is they'll tell us what's, this client's offered at this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then go, well, hang on a minute. I can show you a more expensive property because you can afford it now.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised then with that in mind that I'm not going to name names, but the bigger corporate estate agencies, they've got in-house mortgage brokers, and I'm just surprised that they don't have in-house or strong links to currency exchange platforms, or at least where they train you on that. Because I've gone through that system, the corporate world, and on training, and you don't really get taught the benefits of introducing someone like yourself. I'm surprised they don't have that.
It's something for me to go and work on, right?
Yeah.
They do, to give them credit, they do have partners.
Yeah.
But this goes back to what we've talked about before. You know, we're all respective. If we don't know, we'll say so, but we'll know someone that will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that, it can be, in the corporate world, it can be a bit more of a tick boxing exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not partners that kind of go to people, how are you? How are the kids? Do you see the football? Can I have a referral, please?
Yeah.
It's that true value exchange piece to add that outstanding value to the ultimate client's goal.
What type of events does have a big indication on rates? Yeah, is there, I mean, you must look at stuff like, we look at the budget coming at the end of November, big political things like that, I'm sure, but are there any other determining factors?
The easiest way to describe it, and someone taught me this when I first started, is they refer to it as a currency compass. So 4 things would be acts of God, can't do anything about that. Acts of terror, can't do anything about that. Political instability and economic information.
Yeah.
But again, back to that point, the world has changed. I used to be, when I was first talking to clients, I'd kind of go, right, well, the market's going to move. We're going to see this data coming out. It's the number of new cars being sold in the UK. And it'll impact how expensive your property is in Spain. And you can hear them going, nah, it's not a chance that I believe you.
Yeah.
And then the next, it happened, didn't it? Have you looked? Yeah, it's got more expensive, hasn't it? Yeah. Do you want to listen to me now? Like this happens. But those economic events now are being hugely overshadowed by the political world that we're in and we live in at the moment.
And how do you kind of formulate whether or not it's going to have a positive or a negative impact? Do you know what I mean?
Well, in the currency market, the market won't move on the result unless it's different from what's expected.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of price in the probability beforehand. So to be honest, this big event coming up that we're all looking for budget, government seems to be sounding out a few ideas, right?
Yeah.
Getting a bit of a feel of it.
Yeah.
And then what we'll really know is on the day, the papers might as well have already been printed.
Yeah.
We know what's coming.
Yeah.
The market will price that in.
Yeah.
But it's when we see surprises and shocks in the market, we call them a spike in the market, when the market moves really quickly to reflect that new information.
Yeah. And it's like the mortgage market, like we were saying before, when we see a base rate cut, everyone goes, oh my God, it's going to be so much more cheaper now because they've had a base rate cut. And actually, when they talk to their broker, it's normally the same as it was the day before because the banks have priced it in for the last month or two, and they understand that. So it's more volatile events, like you said, quick changes.
As soon as who's in the White House at the moment, how many tweets are going out, how quickly the world is evolving. As you said, you wake up in the morning, it's a very different place, and property might be more expensive or less as a result. But importantly, from an agent's perspective, it's asking the question, understanding the exposure and adding that value. But that can equally be saying, I know we're talking currency, but there's so many other services for the clients that we will serve, like all the American clients that we're dealing with at the moment. And if I'm introduced to 5 buyers coming into the UK, 3 of them are American.
Yeah, interesting.
I was introduced to 2 Americans yesterday.
Yeah.
Normally, the property is emotive. The currency is transactional. The stoppers are normally, this is a wealth event, this is a tax event. So when I talk to Americans, I'm not really talking currency. I'm going, how are you getting on with the agent? How are we getting on with this? Have you started doing this? Google doesn't count. Do you want to have a chat with someone? I go, this has really been bugging me, Steve. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know who to speak to. Who's a good one to speak to?
Yeah.
And you kind of like, here's a team of people around it.
100%.
With the introducers.
Yeah.
If they've introduced me to this client, I'll validate and check that that's okay, obviously. But working collaboratively to get over those stoppers to help that dream become a reality. I've got one completing on Monday, and the client is getting the funds out of a very complicated US trust. Agent didn't know anybody. Other people had introduced people. And I spoke to the agent last night, and he very wholesomely and grounded me said, Steve, without you, this wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I'd put the right people in place to do it. But equally, nothing to do with currency or me. I've just kind of gone, you need to speak to this guy.
Go on, Benj.
No, I was just going to say, so it's a semi-loaded question, and just going back to in terms of the news, and as you said, we kind of roughly know what's going to be happening with the budget in November. So when November comes, it's not like there's going to be a big spike. So it kind of links back to when the news breaks, when they're putting the feelers out, the government, for example. So I guess for you, reading the news is super important. Yeah. Which then dictates, whether markets move. What does your morning look like, for example? Because you obviously have to be on top of everything.
What I'd say is the news is sometimes behind the market.
Yeah.
I'll see the market move and we'll go, shit, what's happened?
Yeah. We don't know yet.
And then you're waiting
Okay.
for a push notification from a media outlet around Trump's just done this. And oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's not inside trading, is it?
Yeah.
No comment. But yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But yeah, the market is, well, I'll often start my morning. I was on the phone to Australia first thing this morning, then Dubai, then into Cyprus, and then through Europe and over to the US. So it's non-stop as we go through it, but the market dictates that to see what it will be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we talk about it every single podcast, I think, again, but that sphere of influence between, experts at the high end of the marketplace is really where all your value is at, isn't it? Where you can say, don't worry, I can introduce you to X and Y and Z, and they are an extension of you, and your service, but you all add value between each other. And one thing which you actually just touched on is responsiveness. Like us, you're having to have calls at 7 a.m., 10 p.m. I was on the phone at 11 o'clock last night to a client who's in Lagos at this moment in time. You just have to do it, but actually they respect you for it. And if you're not there, you're quickly drops.
Well, as I said, it was a semi-loaded question, and there's two topics that I would love to talk about, and probably could even lead to a part 2. But in terms of AI and then leading into crypto, I mean, can AI do your job? If it's reading the news,
not yet, hopefully. Like probably, maybe later, perhaps. It depends. But I don't think so. The client types that we deal with want that personality piece.
Yeah.
Right. In the same way that you could argue that a state agency could be, right move is under risk and it's just going to be ChatGPT searching this location and AI pulls it all out. The same thing could be said for our space. We'll have to wait and see. But it comes down to the responsiveness of what we're doing and the personal piece to it. It's, we are in a position of trust that we appreciate and we're proud to be in, and that can make a difference, right?
And Benji made a really good point. Crypto. I mean, where does this go in the future? I mean, if there is a crypto and we all start to have less and less currency, different currencies, and it does start to merge into one, it's going to be a really interesting play. Have you had any crypto to dollars or crypto to
any of that? Yes, crypto is a growing theme and new wealth is coming out of crypto for sure. Back in the day, when it first kind of started, the crypto exchanges didn't allow clients to invest in sterling as the fiat currency. So we did a fair amount of helping people move money, pounds into euros and dollars to load. And equally, when people had made their money, I remember one client, I'm always particularly interested if someone's got a load more money than I have and they're younger than me. Pay a particular interest of how did you do that? What lesson can I learn here? And this guy was younger than me and was out in the Middle East and working for one of the airlines, looking after the planes there. And it was a self-funded position. By that, you get a wage, but everything is covered, so you don't need to spend any. And he's just been buying blockchain. And he ended up buying a chateau in France for a ridiculous amount of money. And the money just came out of, put my wages into crypto and it boomed and off I went.
Wow.
But nowadays we don't come across it too often because the crypto exchanges can come out in all the currencies. But it'll be one to watch if we do get a tokenized or blockchain piece in property or in currency.
So sorry, you said they couldn't transfer into sterling?
Correct. So
Why?
Well, 2017, 18, when the first initial kind of mass waves of crypto, all of the brokerages that you could trade currency on didn't really allow a fiat investment. So you couldn't put sterling as your fiat in. You had to buy in euros or in dollars.
Interesting.
Wow.
So busy then, not so much now. Never really comes up because they just take the money out of sterling and buy what they want to buy.
Yeah.
But I do monthly, I'll get a phone call from an agent going, I've got this client, he's doing crypto. What do I need to look out for?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me, but make sure you get a solicitor on side that can understand source of wealth.
Yeah.
Solicitor does source of wealth at the beginning of their questions, not 3 months into the journey. Do it at the beginning to qualify out. Find a good one that do it.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone? Yeah, surprisingly, I know a few. Here's a couple of options. Off you go. Good luck to you.
Love that. It's been fascinating, and I think everyone watching would have found this very educational, helpful. There's so much value add. There'll be things that people will be walking away going, I've got 2 clients like that now. So for the people watching that are interested in having a one-on-one conversation with you, being part of the WhatsApp community groups, etc., whatnot, where do they find you, Steve? How do they contact you?
Search for me on Instagram, I suppose. Steve Eakins Currency, and you'll come across me. My profile isn't as professional as perhaps as some others, but you get me raw, I suppose. Send me a message and we can have a quick chat. But I now get, when I first started, it was faxes. I used to get referrals around faxes, and now I get it via Instagram. So that's how the world's changed. But that's it.
Love that. We'll also link, obviously, you in below as well. But mate, thank you ever so much for coming in. I always sit down, even though I've kind of know a lot of what you've been saying. I always learn something every time, So we really appreciate you coming in. It's been great for everybody watching, I'm sure, Benj as well.
Yeah, I just can't wait to go make some phone calls and get some referrals. Because it's funny, as I was asking in terms of the agents and hopefully for people to learn. Like we're always learning, as Ollie just said, and having that refresher to think, okay, actually, let me ask that conversation, have that conversation. Because when you ask the question, 9 times out of 10, if you phrase it to them, for example, saying, "Can I see if we can beat the bank quote and connect with Steve?" They'll be like, "Yeah, sure. If you can save me money, let's have the chat." But it's about asking that question. So
just put it on your offer forms. You have the offer forms, right? Where's the money coming from? Mortgages, solicitors. As part of your offer or your wider finances, are you moving money internationally? That's a great safety net because. Sorry, I'm extending it a little bit. But loads of agents will put that in and kind of go, "Oh, this is a great safety net. Like I thought that client was British as British could be, but actually they've got loads of money here, there, and everywhere else." Yeah. So those safety nets will be a good.
I bet if you looked at all of the transactions across PCL, it must be a very high percentage which are using other currencies. Yeah. It's got to be up there,
international buyers, the data from a few years ago was about 8% of the buyers were international. Yeah. Now it's about 1 or 2, hugely off as a result of the environment we're in. Yeah. But maybe we'll keep that for part 2. If
100%. Mate, thank you ever so much.
Thanks for having me.
I think you've probably got loads of calls to make after this as well now. Thank you ever so much for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you soon.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.